Hello everyone, welcome to Gosport Railworks. My name is James and today we're doing another beginner tutorial, this one being about the most dreaded process to do on a model railway layout, which is ballasting. If you know what ballasting is, it's the small little pebbles and rocks and stuff which you find underneath the railway sleepers, which help with drainage and help keep a track on the track bed and stuff like that. On a model railway layout, however, it's more to do with looking more like a prototypical railway, and also sometimes it does actually help keep the track on the baseboard as well. But the reason why it is one of the most dreaded things to do on your model layout is because first of all you're introducing glue onto the track, and also you're also introducing small little now glue covered bits of rock all over your lovely track which used to work. And as you can probably guess, if you don't do it all that well, your track no longer works. And also your points no longer work because it will be jammed up with glue, and if you got any holes for point motors, all the glue will go down there and then ruin your point motors. So do remove your point motors before doing any of this if you got them fitted, as I found out to my expense beforehand. But yes, I have got a few varieties of ballast here. These are all wooden scenic ones because it tends to be easiest to get. You can use other products, other brands of ballast, or you can use other products entirely which look vaguely like ballast. I have heard good things about chinchilla dust, but I've never used it before, so I can't actually comment on it myself, and I don't have chinchillas or feel the need to buy anything like that, so yeah, I've not actually got round to using it before. I may try it at some point, but I tend to use wooden scenic stuff because I buy a big bulk tub like that, and then I'll start using it for a while. With ballast you can do a thing like mixing it up and see if you can get a better effect out of it. Unfortunately I didn't get a better effect out of this one, so I'll be using this for practicing, just basically to get rid of it and use it all up. But if you use something like a more complementary colour like dark grey and light grey, you might get a better effect. But yes, before you even start working on ballasting your layout, I would actually recommend you do something else, which is build yourself a little practice board like this. So this is just a few scraps of track sellotaped using double-sided tape on a bit of scrap of wood. And yeah, you just use this for practice because you do really want to get a lot of practice doing your ballasting before you work on your actual layout itself. So yeah, I'm going to cut now so we can get to work on trying out on the practice board. So I'll see you in a sec. Right, here we are on my desk, and I've got my practice board all ready here for me to work on. First things we need to do is get some glue. This is a PVA water mix with a touch of wash up liquid added in to help break up the water tension, so that when we apply it to the ballast it starts seeping in, getting all the way, basically getting all the glue into the ballast. So yeah, and I apply that with a Nurofen syringe like thing because I find it quite easy to use. You can also use a little pipette or something like that to apply the glue. And yeah, the way we're going to be adding the ballast, preferably I tend to use a spoon to lightly sprinkle the ballast onto the track and then tidy up after that to get the effect of which I want. However, I will be testing out this, which is a ballast spreader. You can get these fairly cheaply, probably about tenner, something like that. I think I've vaguely used it before, but I've not been all that keen on using it again, mainly because Gosport, my main layout, has got two main areas of curvature, and these this basically doesn't go around curves really, so I was quite limited to just using it in a station area, so I basically gave up and used this instead. But if you've got very long straights and things like that, use one of these. This basically just holds the ballast inside of it. When you want to use it, you push the little tab on here, that's the wrong way around, you push the little tab there, and there's 3 little holes in the bottom which spreads the ballast in between the sleepers. And when you don't want to stop using it, you push the tab again, and it sucks up that little hole. We'll give it a little go with that as well. And I've got my spare ballast here. So yeah, if you want to know the rough mixture which I did this, the glue, it's about 50-50 water glue and then, like I said, a little touch of PVA. So yeah, let's get the ballast in the ballast spreader. So I'm only going to ballast a little bit. You saw that? Is that closed? Yes, it is. Bit difficult to tell when it's clear. So add a little bit of ballast in there. And that'll probably do. And just make sure you can see. And you basically open it up and just slowly move it across there, and then try to close it again. The only problem is there's now ballast in the way. A little bit of spillage, we'll just brush it over. There we go. Yeah, so I'm not all that keen on this. And what I tend to also use is a dry brush and just basically manoeuvre the ballast where I want it. Just carefully doing it like that. It's not too bad. I do like to have the sleepers mostly, well, somewhat uncovered. So just spinning around. Be a bit careful if you run your finger across it. It tends to flick all the ballast everywhere, and then you've got a mess to clean up later. So do be careful. That's not too bad. So I don't want to add it right to the end because, like I said, it's only a small little board, and I've got to add glue to this later. And for using the spoon, just carefully lightly brush it on. But if you've got a little valley type thing, which I've got on the beginner board, or the tutorial board, you just basically tip this in and then work out from there. Just carefully brush it in between the sleepers. So we don't want everything going everywhere. I had a raised track bed. This is one on the basically track bed foam stuff which goes underneath. You could add glue to the sides of a track bed, and that will help prevent the ballast flying off everywhere. However, I don't use the track bed stuff and just tend to, well, my track tends to be in a little ditch. Which helps keeps the ballast where I want it. And which is also pretty typical anyway, because I have noticed the tracks around where I live tend to be in little ditches with trees either side, and seems rather nice to me in my opinion. I'll tell you, I will be showing you how to do well, ballast points and that lot when I get to the tutorial board, but for now we're just going to be practicing getting ballasting right on straight, well, on non-point work track. So it doesn't matter if you add a little bit too much. If you haven't got enough on one side, you can just carefully brush it around and get it everywhere. Sometimes using a finger to get it in the right spot as well. So this is probably not the only method to do this, but this is the method which I tend to do things. This is how I did Gosport, not Minstow Road. I did that using a different method. Actually, it probably was a method like this, but before I worked out what I was doing. And it was using this ballast, unfortunately. As you can see, we've got, well, you probably can't see, but we have got a little bit of ballast above the track, the sleeper height, the inside, which is what we don't want, because we need to get well, wagons and that lot running over it. Since the wheel flanges are on the inside, you basically want this no higher than the sleeper height. Well, at least on the next to the rails anyway. Oopsie, I don't think this is the right brush, but never mind. So the reason I'm using my fingers is because it's more flat than this, and it tends to help spread things out. And just the last little bit, because there's a little bald spot. And just carefully move that there. Probably still got a bit to clean up on the table, but never mind. And what you could do is quickly nab a wagon. It's basically run a wagon over the track before you glue it all down, just to make sure that there's nothing blocking the wheel flanges. Right, and then we get to the messy bit, which is get the glue. So that's the reason why I prefer a syringe to a pipette, because I can control it a lot more easier. You just need to carefully spread it. Sometimes it will ball up into little balls of watery glue, but eventually the water tension will well, it'll start to soak in eventually. Either that, or I've made it a bit too gluey, in which case it just add more water. And yeah, just basically add it everywhere. One thing which I have just realised is that probably best not to let it drop from a height onto the ballast, because it tends to, I want to say splash. Ooh, I'm trying to get rid of bubbles. It does tend to make a splash down onto the ballast, and then it kind of moves it in places where you don't want it. So yeah, just carefully adding it. And you can probably see why that it's rather messy, and that's not going well wanted either, because of surface tension. Sometimes if you don't succeed the first time, just try carefully add more later on. Sometimes less is more, so don't worry if you add too little beforehand. You can always add more later. There we go. Just want to get everywhere. trying to not make bubbles. Bit too runny there, but never mind. Don't think I'm going to get these edges all that well because it keeps sliding off. Then I need to get this one done. This was enough glue there. I think I'm not going to do all that well with that one. Let's see if I can scoop it in there. That probably works a little bit better. I've now got too much glue there. Pop it there. I think luckily surface tension is also keeping the glue mostly on the top of the board. It does seem to be messing up everything else, so yeah, I probably should make it a bit more watery. So probably something like 2:1 water, then add the washing up liquid, or you could always buy the commercial products like well, obviously there's wooden scenic glue, which work in the same way. Then there's also some other, I don't want to say lesser name brands, but not wooden scenic brands as well, which probably are actually most likely a lot cheaper, and they do the same thing anyway. And as far as I know, they probably are something similar to PVA glue, well, watered down PVA glue with something to break the surface tension. And is that going in the right spot? Slowly it is. Very nice, somewhat satisfying to watch it sometimes soak into the ballast. Just slowly moves the stones carefully out of the way, and then sinks in. Anyway, I'm going to stop there for this bit and just pop it on the side and let it to dry, because I don't want it leaking onto my desk, well, on my normal desk. So I'm going to put this aside somewhere. I'll still probably be using this glue after this lot's dry. I'm also going to, so it keeps everything tidy, I'm going to pop this on the side here, and yeah, that should work. So it doesn't go anywhere where I don't want it. So I'm going to pop this on the side, pop this on the side, come back tomorrow and see if anything's dried. Sometimes it does take a little bit longer to dry because, well, things tend to take longer to dry these days, but it all depends on how warm it is. And well, at the moment the sun's going down, so it'll probably take a bit longer. Anyway, I'm going to come back to this tomorrow, see if it's dried. If not, I'll come back the next day and then see if it's dried. Obviously, when you're doing your main layout, do it in small bits, see if it dries, see how it looks. Run your practice wagon across it and see how that runs. And if it works, continue on and keep ballasting down even more bits. So yeah, I'm going to come back once this is all dried and looks roughly like it should do. So I'll see you in a bit. Did just remember while tidying up that I forgot to mention one other thing. If you need to redo any ballasting, luckily it's very easy to remove via just putting water on it, because PVA is water soluble, and you can just basically remove it using water really. However, if you've got a layout which uses a lot of paper mache, you don't really want to add more water, because paper mache, obviously it's using PVA as well, and it'll just basically ruin all that as well. So this is why we do practicing, so we can get it right on something which we don't care about, so that when we get to the bit that we do care about, it's looking as it should do, and you've got a bit more practice. Anyway, I'll see you in a bit. Right, and here we are with all the ballast on the Sport all dried. As you see, it's fairly solid, and yeah, it doesn't look all that bad really. The only things which you do need to do when it's all dried is basically, if you can zoom in a little bit and get something to point with, you can get these little bits of ballast stuck in basically inside of the rails, and basically just get something pointy like some tweezers like this, and just start softly scraping it away. Fortunately I used a bit too much of a gluey mix, so you get all these strands of glue. The only problem with PVA is it does make a filmy like layer sometimes. It depends on how thick you make it. So actually I'm going to zoom out. There we go. So yeah, just scrape away at the stuff which you don't want there. And yeah, sometimes you just do get bits which are really thick, and it just helps make sure that there's electrical contact with the track and the locomotive. Yeah, probably a bit too much glue with that one, but yeah. Seems to run quite well. Just a little bit. There we go. This is only a practice board, so it's not going to be perfectly clean. I'd actually get something like a track rubber and then brush off more of the filmy residue, just to make sure it's absolutely perfectly clean, and then I'd use a proper proper track cleaning material stuff to clean it properly. But yeah, let's get onto the tutorial board, where I've got the more complicated track work, and then show you how to do the ballasting for the point. So I'll see you in a bit when I'm going to get all the simple ballasting out of the way, and then we'll just talk about the track work, the point work there. So I'll see you in a sec. And right, here we are with basically all the ballast up this end all laid down, not glued, but all laid down, and also down here as well. The only bits which you have to do is the inside of the sleepers on the inside of a point, and also on the outside of a point. And I'm using the fine buff ballast because I've got tons of it, and I didn't really want to use anything which I'd actually want to use later on. But basically, it's the same as everything else, but we have to be a lot more careful. Definitely less is more in this case. So I'm just going to pop, unfortunately I haven't split this, I'll pop you there. You can open this bag a little bit better. Ooh. So less is more, and end up spilling too much on. But it's basically carefully put the ballast where you want it, but there we go. But do keep in mind of bits which basically all the moving parts. So where the point blade is here, well, two blades here, be extremely careful about putting anything there, and also the contact bits here, because when we start putting the glue down, it's basically, you don't want to put too much glue in because it will start accumulating quite a lot on the point blades. So yes, very careful. So I'm just going to do the outside first because that's a bit easier. Basically the same as everything else. And depending on how you got your point set up, if you got it with a a point motor on the underside, what I do is I tend to leave a little bit of gap around where the point motor pokes up, so there's not going to be any interaction with basically where the glue is and where the ballast is. Basically it'll be a little bold spot, but it's from a necessity for operation really. And also on the other side, just so there's a little bit of space for the other side of the switch bit here. However, if you chop off this bit, it's not all that much of a problem. I really used to do that on my main layout because I've already got the point motors in. Not powered, but they are in. We should wire them up at some point, but never mind. That's for later on. Anyway, let's carefully add this. And as you see, since I've got a nice valley effect, it's keeping everything tidy and where I want it. Which is why I like doing little valleys. Right, so I'm putting a bit of ballast around it, but not where it is. You might need to do a bit of cleanup when all the glue is dried. But yeah, I do tend to leave the actual motion bit here free of ballast, as from experience that's the most likely point where it's going to fail and damage the point itself, and then you'd have to do a lot of annoying cleanup. So yeah, let's carefully put some ballast in here. And like I said, less is more here, so you just need a very fine amount on the baseboard just to cover it up. Not too much. And you want to try and keep it away from I can't remember what they're called, but it's basically where the little guiding spots. Basically on the bit near the frog where the track, the wheels would go when crossing the point. And also on the other side, I think the guiding bits, I can't remember what they're called. But it's ballast does tend to get caught there, so do try to make sure it's brushed out now, or do remove it later. Otherwise, you tend to get at best a crunching sound when the train's going over. At worst, your train tends to derail or get caught or stop working. So just carefully brushing it in. And actually, those two parts done. I'm just holding the brush on my mouth because I haven't got enough hands. And that should probably do us for now. Very carefully do that. I have also watered down my PVA mix a bit more, but that's because I did leave it overnight and it did kind of evaporate some of the water, so just to make it a bit more runny again, I added more water. But yeah, that's leave a little bit of ballast free area here, because as I said, that's where the spring mechanism is. I forgot what that was earlier, but yeah, the spring doesn't like ballast in my experience. And yeah, we'll just use some of this up here, there, just to cover up spots I've missed, and then we start gluing. And just make sure it's nicely down. And we get our trusty little wagon. Just make sure it's all clear. Ooh. Try it this way. So I'm not all that concerned if this track doesn't quite work all that well, but it's just to show you what roughly the process. So I've got the glue here. Ooh, try and make sure I don't spill it. Put it over there. But yeah, you can probably see why the ballast spreader here won't work in a situation like this, because I've got a curve going off this way, I've got straight that way, and there's a point in the middle. It's not going to work anywhere near this. So yeah, just get that. Carefully just and that glue staying up there for some. It can stay there for now. Again, surface tension being annoying. So yeah, I may actually bring you back after I've put all the glue down, so you're not just sat there watching me dribble all this lot into there. So I'll see you in a bit. Right, and here we are with all the glue more or less where it should be. Unfortunately, it does end up moving some of the pieces, but we'll clean that up a bit later. I did have to put a little board up here because since it's a very wide opening and this isn't a proper baseboard, I didn't want too much stuff flowing off the board. But yeah, as I said earlier, do be very careful about when doing round points. Do make sure that even before it's I may have missed a bit there, but I'll do that in a sec. But even before it's dry, do make sure that the point can move freely, and then it should be roughly fine. We'll see tomorrow, really. Ooh, and that's fallen over. I found a use for it. There we go. Ooh, still can't even do that. There we go. That should hold it. But yeah, that's pretty much all we can do for now. Just need to wait. Do make sure that one thing which I have noticed is, unfortunately, this is paper mache and it's going to start peeling this up. Do take into account of the types of scenery which you've got. So you've got paper mache. Unfortunately, it's water and glue, so it's going to start peeling that back up again. But luckily, when it dries, it'll be roughly the same as it was. We'll fix that later. But yeah, if you get any of this wrong, again, water, and it'll start washing away. And again, this is affected by water as well. This is fine. This won't do it. No, this is not affected by water, so I probably should start making stuff out of this now. Oh well. Anyway, I'm going to leave it for now, and I'll bring you back when it's all done, and also I'll clean it up before you see it, so it should hopefully look good. So yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. See you in a bit. And here we are with the ballast on my well, my tutorial board, all nice and dry. There's a gap here and maybe another one here, but luckily this is why we do less is more, because well, if we find any gaps we can just add a bit more later on and then cover them up. But I do have an idea of what to do with that when we get to the next video. But yeah, as you can see, I have cleaned it up, and like I said, do make sure you pick out any bits which are stuck in here. There's a few bits on the inside of the frog, but luckily no train will go there, so it's not really that much of an issue. And yeah, for some reason a slight slope from that side, but never mind. And As you can see, the points work as they should do. I haven't checked if it's electrically conductive because well, I really couldn't be bothered. I'm not actually going to be running any trains on this, but yeah, do make sure that if you used a bit too much glue, make sure you clean the inside of these blades, both sides, very, very thoroughly. Even if you're going to be using electrofrog points, clean it more so. Some bits to clean up there, but yeah, just as I say, clean it up. Make sure that even if you don't power this or anything like that, or if you do power it, can't remember, make sure this is clean so that the trains will run perfectly fine. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Next tutorial video I'll be doing about adding grass or however you feel like pronouncing it. Basically showing you how I do that and making this look a bit more pretty. And yeah, I think this has worked out rather well. I will be continuing on the series. So I'm quite surprised people think it's interesting, but yeah, so this is how I do things, and I'll be continuing on to do things like this. So yeah, like I said, hope you enjoy, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments, or just feel like give me your own little bits of advice as well, because I'm a newbie. I'm trying to help newbies as I learn, and yeah, if anybody's more experienced, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I'm probably going to clean this up as well. But anyway, as I said, hope you enjoy. If you feel free to comment, like, and what's the other one? Favorite or whatever the video, whatever YouTube allows you to do. And yeah, I'll see you again next time. So take care and see you again. Bye bye now.